The 2000s will never die.
Why won't you die?
Today we're discussing The Hills Have Eyes, the 2006 horror remake by Alexandre Aja that follows a family who are targeted by cannibalistic mutants in the desert. This is of course a remake of Wes Craven's 1977 film of the same name.
The Hills Have Eyes. A night of terror. A day of vengeance where no one was spared. No one. Kill the babe!
So is it any good? Let's find out. This is the Complete Guide to Horror Movies podcast. Welcome back, fans and friends, to the Complete Guide to Horror Movies podcast. Today we dissect and feast on a movie that perhaps did not get the same attention amidst all the torture porn movies in the mid-2000s. My co-hosts BP and Coop have recently re-watched The Hills Have Eyes with me, and let's just say we have some very strong opinions that may or may not conflict at times. So let's get into it.
You little bitch! You're a bitch!
The first thought I had about this movie was that 2005, 2006 seemed to be this big thing where every horror movie started with a car breaking down. Like it was in, I was going to say Wolf Creek, not that one. It was in Wrong Turn, House of Wax, Hills Have Eyes, Rest Stop. Like just the 2000s were rife for cars breaking down.
Break it down now.
Super gory, more gory than I thought. I know it's R, but a lot of R movies we've watched haven't really always been that gory. So yeah, this was super gory, super graphic. I love the music. Because I have the DVD menu, it actually has similar music to, well, similar rumbling to Paranormal Activity, which is really cool as well. Yeah, no, I had a really good time. I just actually thought it was, like savage kills, great imagery. I haven't seen the original though, so I probably should go back and watch the original.
The Hills Have Eyes.
Mister, don't take your family back in that area. The silver has been gone for 40 years now. Besides, there's nothing back in there but animals.
I also need to get my horror movie fan card revoked because I also haven't seen the original. But I remember it had been a while since I'd seen this one. I remember always liking it. I still did enjoy it. Like if you're wanting like an uncomfortable gore fest, then look no further. Like it's quite unnerving. I think it's at times maybe a bit needlessly rapey, particularly that scene in the caravan is a bit much and maybe unnecessary. And I was actually quite surprised that you mentioned that it was cut down for an R rating because like the packs a fucking punch. Like the gore is it doesn't feel like they're holding back. That was very surprising to me. But I think this is a good watch for like an uncomfortable gore mutant type movie. If you like Wrong Turn, things like that, you're going to love this movie. So yeah, I enjoy it.
The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, the remix.
My favorite parts of this movie are equal parts of the movie itself and also the marketing. I remember back in 2006, there was a very effective trailer that was played on Australian TV where it was more around the tagline to do with the lucky ones die first. And it doesn't show too much of the gore. Of course, I couldn't show any of that in a TV advertising slot, but it did make me want to see this. And so I was pleasantly surprised the first time I watched this. It was like, holy shit, this is just as graphic as the director's previous efforts, like High Tension in particular, or Haute Tension as it's known internationally. I feel that it was actually a step up from that movie because I have my own separate issues with High Tension. But it also, I don't know if a lot of people know this. So the same director of this iteration of Hills Have Eyes also did Mirrors, that one with Kiefer Sutherland, that also has that really graphic jaw-ripping part.
Yeah.
Like, in this one, I don't know, there's something that I really like about like practical effects. We're huge suckers for practical effects on this podcast, but there's that one where, and I forget the character's name, but he just gets a shotgun to the head and you just see the full like
Yeah.
explosion. It's so bloody and graphic, and you can tell that's not CGI, or if it is, it's done, particularly well. But also like the pacing of this movie, it just harkens back more to that 1970s look, like that same puppetry, the same, just everything about it was nice compared to like the cold digital feeling of some horror movies that year. But yeah, I could go on and on. BP, what are your favorite parts?
Yeah, this is a very one of the very few horror movies I found it represents daytime horror and a lot of daytime horror. There are some night scenes, but a lot of this stuff is actually shot in the day, and it's just as scary. One thing that sticks with me, even from the original, is that reflection at the start where they're looking in the caravan, they see the reflection in the distance. That creeps the shit out of me. Imagine being in the desert, no one else is around, and you see something, it's not a car, someone's doing that in the distance, and you're not alone. That just scares the shit out of me. I put down here there's three scenes that I put that I really liked was when the dad was on fire. I thought that was really well done. There was a bit of like CGI and stuff in there, but like not too bad. That was really good. Because this is a couple weeks ago since I did this, I put something about parrot blood and ripping off the neck. So there must be in the bird or something in the caravan. Is that what happened?
They do a bit of a interview by there. He bites it off and
like an Ozzy Osbourne or
yeah.
And then there was the breastfeeding scene, which was really unnerving. And it made me so uncomfortable. But like it was done really well. Like just that whole uncomfortable feeling.
I had to take on all of her responsibilities, the cooking and cleaning and breastfeeding Mitch.
Jamie, that's all in the past now.
It was also filmed in Morocco as well as New Mexico.
How did you get HPV? When were you in Mexico?
I completely agree with Byron. I love that idea of, that most of this takes place during the day. I think that's really good and super effective with this movie. The glint that you mentioned, that reflection off in the distance, that's so fucking unnerving. The scene with the father on fire and everything, like that's one of the goriest scenes still to this day that I've seen, with just the amount of shit that happens in like a 5-minute period is just so full on, and it just packs such a punch of like, oh shit, like we're like 20 minutes in and pretty much everyone's dead like right away, and it's down to like a couple of people, and it's like, what the fuck are we going to do? The idea of, similar to with Wrong Turn, of like some people that are sort of separated from society, like they live completely off the grid, and in cases of movies like this are a complete threat every time someone from society wanders in. Never see them again. Like that idea is creepy, and of course the idea that how many families has this happened to, how many people has the guy at the petrol station given those directions. And especially the throwaway thing in the start where like he wasn't going to send them that direction. He was going to give them the correct directions, but then I think the father says something about him being a hick, and then he's like, you know what? Actually, like he's just got a bit pissed off. Now they're all dead. Like that's just so just like a throwaway thing, and that's so fucking scary. Incredible gore. The fact that they're able to make the daytime scary is always, hats off to that. Mainly the gore, the atmosphere is just, incredible.
Really? Did you hear that, honey?
You reminded me of that part as well where it's like a giant, I don't want to say hole, but it's like all the
crater.
Yes, that's it. Like all the previous cars and everything. It's just like, holy shit. Like that is insane. I can't believe I forgot about that part. But
it's crazy to think that like not even if a plane's gone over, it's always these things. In Wrong Turn, it's the same thing. You think like there's so many licenses, so many little kids, so many toys, and you just like the whole backstories. How long's this been going on for? I love that stuff.
And it's so effective too, because it's just one little shot. But I mean, it's not done through exposition. There's not some random old person there being like, and this has happened 86 times. Like in some horror movies we've reviewed.
There wasn't enough time to file an injunction, and that I clearly don't understand what an injunction is if I ask them to file one in this situation.
In terms of least favorite parts, I just have two. One is the dog being killed. I don't like that, but that's because I like dogs. Like I do recognize they had to do that because it's a horror movie. Likewise, this is my overall criticism just about horror movies in general, which is that rape scene. I know it was done specifically to make the viewer feel horrified and everything, but looking at it through a 2024 lens, I do think, what is it with 90s and 2000s movies and rape being such a like prominent thing? Especially the way that it's done. They could have done without it, but those are my only two gripes. Everything else, I like. I actually like this movie more than I led on at the start, so I might give it another rewatch. But BP, what are your dislikes of this movie?
I didn't have any negative notes on here, and thinking about it now, I can't really think of anything. If anything, the sequel was really bad. Don't watch the sequel. If you have, it's a continuation, but it's just not on par with the original. Look, I couldn't really pick anything with it. I think it wasn't too long. I think they did an effective use of daytime horror. I don't think it needed to be shot more in the night. It's not like I wasn't missing that. Yeah, and I think the choice of location was great. So at this point, nothing I can think of negative that really came to mind on it, which is rare for one we've done so far.
Yeah, I mean, this ain't no rest stop, so.
No. What about April Fool's Day?
Yeah, exactly.
What about Imaginary?
Yes!
Yeah. One of our future episodes.
Spoiler.
Coop, what are your least favorite parts of this movie?
Yeah, like I mentioned, all the interaction with the women is like kind of needlessly rapey at times. And it could have still packed a punch without that aspect. But as we know, like a lot of horror movies of that time, they're a serial killer, they're killing people, but as soon as they come across a woman, it's uncomfortable. So I reckon that's kind of needless. I thought the conversation that the guy has with the your background BP with the guy in the wheelchair was kind of comical.
Yeah.
He was kind of like a weird character because it kind of seemed like he was made out to be, I don't know, like one of the older ones that had been there or something like that, or someone with a bit more seniority or whatever the word is.
Yeah.
But then he just cops a fucking pickaxe to the side of the head or whatever, and it's just like, oh, he's just sitting there, telling tall tales. So I thought that was a bit of a letdown. But yeah, mainly a bit of clunky dialogue here and there, but for the most part, not a big issue. With the movie.
Yeah. If I did think it's something, if he could have just done a better rendition of the American national anthem.
Yeah.
There's no Fergie, so yeah.
Yeah.
Nay.
Yeah.
I think my favorite clip of Fergie will always be that morning TV show where she's doing like a cartwheel. That's so good. That's all I thought.
And the funniest thing with that is when she's like crawling on the ground, there's like 5-year-olds where she's doing that. And I'm thinking, like, is mum and dad, are they happy with this decision that Fergie's crawling towards your child in like leggings?
I mean, honestly, I salute anyone that will get up at 7 a.m. to do a performance on the. It's always the American Today show.
GMA.
Yeah, that Fergie performance. There was also the Britney one, and then the infamous Hillary Duff one with the.
It's insulting.
There's actually some trivia about The Hills Have Eyes. I just want to point out two things in particular. The mutants themselves were created by either CGI, physical effects, or both. So reason why I say both is most of the mutants with full deformations were created by prosthetic makeup. That's usually for the adults. But the deformed children were digitally distorted using tracking dots on their faces. That's quite an expensive way to do it. I'm surprised they didn't just do full prosthetics. Maybe it's an issue with like child labor, etc. The character of Ruby was actually a mixture of CGI and physical effects, using the tracking dots for distortion, but also she had prosthetic teeth. Also, 3 minutes into the movie, the photos of mutations that play during the opening credits are not of atomic mutation, but actual birth defects caused by the use of Agent Orange in Vietnam, which I don't think we learned about that in high school at Nambucca High, but I remember learning about that later in life and being like, holy shit. So I'm a little surprised they used that for the opening credits, but Ivana Turchetto, who played Big Mama, agreed to have her head shaved for $1,000. So, not bad.
So when I watched the special features, the fuel petrol station was a whole set.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually the top trivia item on IMDb. So people thought it was such a realistic set that they would stop for fuel.
Yeah, it was really cool though. Like behind the scenes, they showed even like with the how they did the car going into the rock at the start with the caravan on it, and just so many logistics behind that. Like it looks so simple in the film, but it just all afternoon trying to perfect that shot. And I'm pretty sure they used dummies in all those shots, but obviously I don't know if they CGI people in the car, but yeah, it was all dummies and stuff inside. It's really cool.
Makeup artist Greg Nicotero was featured as Cyst, the mutant with the Halo headgear, that person, going back to Wes Craven. So himself and producer Peter Locke originally wanted to film the new version of Hills Have Eyes in the exact same desert location as the 1977 film, the Mojave Desert. But when they went out to scout the locations, they found a number of like apartment developments, condominiums, etc. that had been built. So they can imagine being like, this is all abandoned. Then you just see like the shot of an apartment building in the background. The 1977 version was threatened with an X rating, but the 2006 one we mentioned, it was threatened with an NC-17 rating, and 2 minutes were cut to achieve the R rating. So I imagine that's probably more the death scenes, maybe the rape scene as well.
According to Wes Craven, the idea of having the baby killed in the film was considered. The cast and crew said they would leave if the plot went that route.
Damn.
But they're happy for other things to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're happy for the dog to die? No.
Yeah.
The body count is 17 for this movie, which I think is actually more than a lot of slashers, Final Destinations, excluding, the plane scene, of course, but yeah, crazy. So with the character of Aaron Stanford, the filmmakers were looking for someone similar to Dustin Hoffman did in Straw Dogs, this 1971 movie I've never heard of, where Hoffman was an ineffectual nerd who rises to heroism in the end and commits ghastly acts of violence. Stanford in the films also markedly physically resembles this film's director, Alexandre Aja. I didn't know that because I don't actually know what Alex Aja looks like.
They usually tell me I look like Shalissa.
Who the fuck is that?
Me.
Originally, the trailer attack scene was supposed to be more gruesome, probably hence the NC-17 rating. Alex Aja had the idea of replacing the birds with kittens and having the mutants put the kittens in a blender with milk and turn it on for the mutants to drink. He pitched the idea to Wes Craven, who strongly disapproved and was fearful people would copycat the scene. Yeah.
That scene doesn't need that. That's way overkill in my opinion. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, it's always funny with horror movies because I'm like, why would you do that? That's so stupid. Like, it's so over the top. And then I think, well, aren't horror movies supposed to be over the top? So, like, where's that balance?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I agree. It doesn't need kittens being blended.
It made $70 million on $15 million budget. So that's 15 million. It's pretty good for this movie, considering if they've been doing, Morocco, like location scouting, that would cost a bomb.
Yeah.
Especially for casts and stuff to go there.
Oh, yeah. Like, even if they got tax credits back, all that stuff, still would have been a lot of money.
I really like that they did that. I like when, especially horror movies, when they take the time and do that sort of location scouting and put some investment instead of doing a Scream 6 and setting it in New York but filming in Canada. Like that, just righto.
Like, this is my big bugbear with the Australian film industry, is that we used to have such a great credit system back in the 80s, 90s, where people were investing in films just to get the tax credit system in their favor or whatever. So there were a lot of producers. Now we have nothing because the whole system's changed. I mean, the arts sector in Australia barely has any funding. But I'm like, we could have had so many more movies, and instead we get Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. Like, big deal.
Yeah. My ego, it's super strong. Okay, but it's not strong enough that I can just go around dating garbage people. Like, yes, I could find a random girl who wasn't popular, and yes, if I started dating her, she would then become popular. Dude, that is a great idea for a movie. Somebody should make that movie. I would see that movie.
Me too. You know who should direct that movie? Michael Bay, the greatest director of all time.
I'm going to give this movie 7.5 out of 10. I think that there's nothing really bad about this movie per se. I guess it's just not necessarily to my taste, which is why it doesn't get like an 8 or 9 out of 10. But really love the kills. They're very, very brutal. Like the marketing, love the poster. It's just so much of a time capsule for 2006. But, you know, I love that genre / time period. BP, what is your score?
Ooh, tough one. I might go 8.5. I think this is my highest review ever. Yeah.
8.6?
We'll go 8.6, yeah. 8.6 out of 10. Yeah, like I said, I had a really good time. I couldn't think of really any negative things about it. Even though it's a 2006-2007 film, I think it still holds up well. I love how graphic it is. This is what we want. Obviously, some scenes are a bit disturbing, but I just think that overall package, it's great. It's great viewing. And I don't think we need to see the original, but it would be interesting to go back and watch the original just to see what the comparisons are like. But had a good time. And like I said, one of the rare films that pushes on daytime horror, which is not very common these days in horror movies.
Excellent. And Coop, what is your score?
I'm gonna give it 8. Fucking 8 what? Parrot heads eaten off out of 10. Like Byron and I both mentioned, like daytime horror, like the way that they were able to make the daytime scary. And I think in a way, even the daytime scenes were scarier because you're just completely surrounded by sand. Like it's just, you know, desert in every direction, just like the epitome of isolation. And they do such a good job with that. So yeah, 8 eaten off parrot heads out of 10.
Nice. I think for a combined score, that's 8 out of 10, which is great. That's one of our highest scores. Which, I'll be honest, I didn't expect that for Hills Have Eyes. So
you did or did it?
No, I didn't. I thought it was going to be like an average of 6, maybe 6.5 at the highest. But yeah, no, it's interesting. At the Complete Guide to Horror podcast, we're about to hit our big double milestone. That's right, we're about to hit our 100th episode and also our 3-year anniversary. And to celebrate, we're giving away our first ever mega physical media prize pack. So what does this include? One lucky winner will receive 56 Blu-rays, 15 DVDs, 4 Funko Pops, and 2 colognes. Everything from 4K new releases like Late Night with the Devil, The Substance, Pearl, the Scream trilogy, and everything to cult classics and fan favorites that we've covered right here on this channel. So how do you enter to win? Simple. Follow us or subscribe to us on any of the platforms. These include YouTube, Spotify, Apple, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Or X, whatever. It's called Twitter, who fucking cares? And like this video on whatever platform you're watching or listening to this on. It's that simple. If you would like extra entries, simply share this episode to your story or comment below what your favorite horror movie is and why. The winner will be drawn on our 100th episode on April 16. Good luck, and thank you for supporting us over the past 3 years. Your support means the world to us. Check out our previous recaps. We've released everything from Final Destination to Saw, Sinister, all the S's, you name it, we've done it.
Right, but what is it? It's just what they bring, okay?
Keep an eye out for future episodes, and if you hated this episode,
I told you to move! So move! Yeah!